Mexico City is quickly becoming a hotspot for digital nomads and expats, with its close proximity to Canada and the US, as well as its amazing weather, its friendly people, and the affordable cost of living.
We're Tom
And Mike,
from Take Time to Travel, and we spent the winter in Mexico City where we absolutely loved our time there. So we're going to share with you our insights on what it's like living in this spectacular metropolis to help you decide if Mexico City is a good destination for you, whether you're looking to move here for the winter or permanently. We'll start with the question people first ask about Mexico City: is it safe? From our experience, it's extremely safe as long as you stay in the many good areas throughout the city.
we did quite a lot of walking all over, both during the day and at night, and never had any problems. As with any major city throughout the world, there will be petty crimes like pickpocketing, so it's good to be aware of your surroundings. Now, there's also some bad areas, which we'll be touching on later, that are best to avoid, especially at night.
One thing that we found a little bit daunting at first was crossing the road. Pedestrians do not seem to have the right-of-way, even at crosswalks, so it's best to cross with a crowd or make sure the cars are completely stopped. It's definitely not as bad as some places in Southeast Asia that we've been to though, like in Thailand and Vietnam.
Next, we'll talk about the weather, one of the most important deciding factors for us. During our stay between November and February, the temperature during the day remained fairly constant between 18 and 24 degrees Celsius. Then at night, the temperature cooled down to around 6 to 10 degrees Celsius. It's like warm spring weather, although without a ton of precipitation. We found it rained maybe once a week, if that. Now, the high elevation at about 2,240 meters, or about 7,350 feet, did take some getting used to. When we first arrived, when I was exercising, I got out of breath pretty quickly. But after some time, we got used to it.
Since Mexico City is also surrounded by mountains and is one of the largest metropolises on the planet, it's hard for the pollution to escape, so the air quality is not the best in the city, even though it's one of the greenest cities we've been to, with the streets lined with tons of plants and trees, and giant parks and green spaces like Chapultepec Park, one of the largest urban parks in the world, spanning over 1,700 acres. Now, let's talk about the people. As you already know, Spanish is the native language, so it's definitely good to at least learn the basics before you go. In the touristy areas, a lot of people will also speak English, but you shouldn't expect them to. Even if you don't speak Spanish, the people are some of the nicest we've encountered in the world. They smile a lot, joke around, and will try to help you whenever they can. The kindness of the people is one of the main reasons we enjoyed our time so much.
As for which neighborhoods to stay in, we'd recommend Roma Norte and La Condesa. They are very popular with digital nomads and expats due to them both being very green and leafy, with beautiful old architecture, a relaxed bohemian-type vibe, lots of delicious eateries, and of course, many street food options too.
Polanco is also a highly desirable neighborhood. It's more upscale, where you'll find the designer shops and boutiques and more high-end restaurants along its tree-lined streets. These areas are more expensive than the average in Mexico City, with monthly long-term rentals in La Condesa ranging from an approximate average of about 30,000 pesos for a one-bedroom or 45,000 pesos for a two-bedroom. The average for monthly Roma Norte accommodations ranges from about 25,000 pesos for a one-bedroom to 40,000 for a two-bedroom, and Polanco approximately ranging from about 35,000 pesos for a one-bedroom to 60,000 for a two-bedroom per month.
Then there's the Centro Histórico. It has a bustling atmosphere and feels more authentic, and has a lot of the city's museums and cultural centers, as well as tons of gorgeous old architecture. Now, because of how busy it is, petty crimes like pickpocketing are more common here, so it's best to be vigilant. That being said, we went here a ton of times and never had any problems ourselves. It's also cheaper than La Condesa, Roma Norte, and Palenque, with monthly rent costing about 15 to 20,000 pesos for a one-bedroom and 25 to 30,000 pesos for a two-bedroom. But it's not the best area if you're looking for a quiet stay. We stayed in the Anzuras neighborhood, in between Palenque and La Condesa, and on Airbnb, we paid about 36,000 pesos per month for a large one-bedroom furnished apartment, including once-a-week cleaning and all utilities and internet.
As for the areas to avoid, there's Tepito, Guerrero, and La Lagunilla, which are above the Centro Historical and tend to have a higher crime rate than the rest of the city. For more details and recommendations on which areas to stay and which to avoid, check out our video on the best neighborhoods in Mexico City.
Now, the city itself is massive, almost 1,500 square kilometers, but a lot of the popular areas are very walkable, although be careful of the uneven sidewalks. It also seems like everyone has a dog, and as dog people, we loved it. However, the dogs here do bark quite a bit, along with the motorbikes and cars honking and the occasional fiesta, making the city quite loud. However, some areas are quieter than others.
But the delicious food more than makes up for that. You can find incredible Mexican and international cuisine throughout the city for some very affordable prices. You can get street tacos for as cheap as 5 for 50 pesos or one-star Michelin tacos for 50 to 70 pesos per taco, and everything in between. There's even a 2 Michelin star restaurant called Pajol, where you can get a taco omakase tasting menu for the eye-watering price of around 4,000 pesos per person. As for dining inside a restaurant, we also found the prices quite reasonable, with inexpensive main courses from around 100 pesos per person, and an average of around 250 pesos and up from there for a mid-range restaurant. You can eat well and quite inexpensively in Mexico City, or you can spend a lot on fine dining. There's something for everyone and every budget.
As for groceries, we tried to find good deals where we could, and we found that Tiendas 3B had some of the best prices. However, it didn't have a huge selection.
We also tried La Comer, Walmart Express, and Sumesa, which are more like full-service stores with everything you would need. But surprisingly, we found the prices very similar to back home in Canada.
Cell phone plans were significantly less expensive than in Canada though. We decided to go with Telcel, the provider with the best service in Mexico. We got a monthly plan for 200 pesos for 3.5 gigabytes of data, with unlimited texts and calls throughout Mexico, the US, and Canada, as well as unlimited data for WhatsApp and social media apps.
Mexico City is also great because the time zone is only 1 or 2 hours different from Toronto or New York City, since Mexico doesn't do daylight saving time anymore. This is perfect for remote workers who want to have a similar time zone to back home, and it's easier for calling family and friends.
Now, if you're looking to spend the winter, Mexico has a very generous tourist visa program lasting up to 180 days, without any extensive paperwork or entry requirements, depending on where you're coming from. As for moving to Mexico City, the temporary resident visa is much more difficult to get and has a pretty high income requirement of about 6,200 Canadian dollars after tax per month, or having over 100,000 Canadian dollars in the bank on average for the last 12 months. This can actually vary depending on where you're applying from, so make sure to check with your local consulate or embassy for the most up-to-date information.
Next, we'll talk about the easy connectivity to Mexico City from other parts of the world, especially from North America, where there are frequent direct flights from major cities throughout Canada and the US, as well as Spain. For us coming from Toronto, our direct flight was less than 5 hours, and it would be even shorter from the US, making it much better than flying to somewhere like Bangkok, which would be about 12 hours. Also within Mexico, we found the prices of flights to be very reasonable. We flew from Mexico City to Puerto Vallarta with Aeromexico, and it only cost 175 Canadian dollars per person round trip. There were even less expensive options with discount carriers as well.
Now within Mexico City, public transportation is also very extensive and affordable. The subway is only 5 pesos per trip, and buses are 6 pesos per ride. Uber trips are reasonable prices too, with a 15-minute ride costing around 100 pesos, although you may get stuck in traffic. The city has about 22 million people, so there can be bad traffic all hours of the day, especially at rush hour.
If you're looking for a city with museums, Mexico City has among the most in the world and also has lots of interesting cultural events, as well as bars and nightclubs, and of course lots of incredible cuisine. It's also gay-friendly, especially in neighborhoods like Zona Rosa, making it a perfect place to escape from northern winters or move to permanently. We absolutely loved our time here, and we could see ourselves staying long-term.
If you'd like to learn more about its delicious foods, check out our best restaurants video. And if you're interested in finding out what there is to do, then check out our top attractions video. Please like and subscribe. And remember, take time to travel. Catch you on the next one.